Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Wednesday, the 16th of August. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm delighted to say we're joined by Joshua with a smiley face over there in his hotel room in Geneva after Rangers progressed to the Champions League playoff round, but only just, shall we say. Joshua, thank you very much for coming on. What was it like last night?
No, always a pleasure. It was a better atmosphere than I'd expected, Derek. Obviously, it was about 15,000 people going to the game who don't normally go to the game because Servette's attendance is normally about, I think it was 8,000 the average last season. So I was kind of the opinion that that would mean the atmosphere wouldn't be hostile, or it wouldn't be a difficult away game, but it was. The crowd were really loud. The pitch was sticky, as Michael Beale kept saying post-match. It was hot, so it was a difficult environment all in to play. And I think when you counter that with the way that Servette were playing, the difficulties Rangers had, and we'll get into all this. And when you put that all together, it made it a game that Rangers felt quite out of control of in the first half. They needed to turn that around, because if they'd went out, although I think Servette, you can see over the two legs, and you can see with the way that they got past Genk, they have a lot as a team, even if Rangers were still heavy favourites to go through. But if you'd went out of that tie with Danilo's chance, with Lammer's chance, with the opportunity to kill that game in the first leg, it would have been hugely frustrating and really costly. So important Rangers went through. I thought they were pretty good in the second half. Lots of really good signs there. Raskin and Cifuentes and Campbell, the kind of pick of the bunch for me. But yeah, lots to get into, Derek. Important that Rangers did get through, though, and I think although it's an opponent that they'd be expected to beat, when you think of, again, the fact that they got past Genk in the previous round, when you consider again the stage that this new team is at, and the situation they found themselves in at halftime. So there's a lot of pressure at halftime to go and make something of that game. They needed to. I think it gives Beale a kind of first big result of this season. Obviously, financially, there's a lot of money attached to getting through to the playoff round, and sets up a reunion with PSV next week. So great game to be at, great atmosphere, and yeah, Rangers didn't make it easy, but they got through in the end.
Yeah, 5 million big ones as well riding on that game last night. So good to see that is coming into the coffers. PSV are next, and they defeated Sturm Graz 3-1 away from home last night to qualify with a resounding 7-2 aggregate win. Rangers are going to come up against it. I think a much improved PSV, I've got to say, from the team that Rangers took on last season. They've got a new manager in place. We all know about Malik Tillman returning as well. We'll talk about that a little later on. But let's talk about the game last night in closer detail. Joshua, Servette, of course, took the lead. Fantastic strike, you've got to say, from Derek Katesa on 22 minutes. Rangers were very much out of sorts in that first half. You mentioned three players that Cantwell, Raskin and Cifuentes. I thought Jack Butland as well was absolutely fantastic. Really kept Rangers in the tie. And James Tavernier, as he so often does in these European games, picking Rangers out a hole with a great connection to a Borna Barisic cross. And that was to be the decisive goal that would see Rangers progress to the next round, to the playoff, to take on PSV. There were some alarm bells going on in there. Let's get to a few comments that are coming in just now. Just on Tav, the walking Dave says, got to love Captain Tav for always being poor. He still pops up when we need him. Massive goal for us. It absolutely is. Francis says, morning all. Butland kept us in the tie last night. And there's a point as well, just on the strikers, because Rangers did miss a few. Danilo, with a glorious opportunity that he managed to not to put away. It's led to a bit of concern amongst the fan base, shall we say. Ian says, really need to get our strikers hitting the back of the net soon, missing too many big chances. Is that a concern, Joshua?
Yeah, well, I think we should maybe start with the game overall, because you're right that Butland's a honourable mention. I mean, the goal, although he does have to make a big couple of saves, you're going to need your goalkeeper to do that at some stage, aren't you? And I thought he was a real difference maker for Rangers last night. We can get into that, but first on the first half, I think that Rangers, we saw this in the first leg that Servette wanted to play directly, but I don't think they really had the opportunity to do so. And I think a large part of that was the way that that Rangers were defending from the front meant that Servette couldn't really get into the rhythms that they wanted to, or they couldn't play the ball into the forward line like they wanted to. And, we've spoke about that a lot when we've been discussing Servette, the direct way they want to attack. And you saw that firstly for that chance, that big Butland saved, and then the goal as well. If you take the chance first and foremost, what happens is the ball's quickly played through. Servette have two players up against Rangers front two. And I think it's Cognat. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but he just runs off the back quicker. And although for that chance and the goal, Tavernier came under criticism, he's in a difficult situation if you look at his positioning. And we're going to have a piece, obviously, breaking down the game with the kind of stats and some screen grabs later. But he can't get too narrow, because if he gets too narrow, as you see for the goal, when he's forced to come inside, then he leaves his marker in all that room. And I think it is Cifuentes. And this is just, I guess, the nature of the type of, when you move to a new team, maybe these fine margins that take a little bit of time to get up to speed, because Cifuentes switches off for the goal. I mean, I thought he had a great game overall. And again, it's the same with Danilo. When players are just in the door, obviously criticism has to kind of be tempered a wee bit with things like that, because I'm sure that will just be, it's quite specific to Rangers, the way that you have to, the way that midfield three works. And I guess the challenge of facing Servette is quite unique because of how direct they play. But I thought in the first half, they were the team that were able to capitalise on their numbers in the final third. It was quite a chaotic game because both teams went for it. Rangers didn't come in and sit in the team selection. I think demonstrated that. But Servette, what they're trying to do, obviously get the ball forwards quite directly. And you see, even for their goal, although they take a shot from like 25 yards, which was blocked, because they win the second ball, I think they've got 5 players to Rangers 5 in that situation. So it's kind of this high, low risk, low reward in a way tactic I think they use, where if they lose the ball there, because of the numbers they've committed to the attack, they have a lot of time to recover if Rangers transition up the pitch. And you saw that in the first half. There were so many occasions where you thought Rangers have so much space here to move through the pitch. But by the time they got into the box, the Servette had recovered. And I think the best demonstration of that probably was the late chance that Kutesa had with Jack Butland making a big save, where he has the man in the middle and you think he's just going to play it across and they'll roll it in for the game to go 2-0, but Butland makes a big save. And if you look at that sequence, 10 seconds before, Rangers have 6 players in the opposition penalty box. Yeah. And then, Servette equally have a lot of players committed to the attack as well. So I think the story of the first half was that Servette were able to capitalise on the numbers they had in the final third. And Rangers, they maybe looked a little bit open at the back, and Beale spoke about the changes that we can come on to that he made at the break and the team made at the break to try and mitigate that. But as well as that, Rangers did have so many opportunities, aside from Danilo's chance, I think it was a 0.45 expected goals chance. Aside from that, they had so much room in the opposition final third to try and make things work. So many nearly moments, but they weren't able to capitalise upon it. And that chaotic game where it was very end-to-end, there was a lot of space. There was a lot of space on the far side of the pitch. Servette were able to take better advantage of it. And the goal epitomises that. As mentioned, I think Cifuentes' man just gets ahead of him. Tavernier then has to move centrally, and he does, because if he stays wide on his man, or if he gets too close to his man, then the initial guy who picks the ball up just drives through the defence and presumably scores as well, because he'd have a great opportunity. So that I think is the story of the first half, and why it felt so chaotic and why Rangers felt so open. And Beale at halftime had to change things, and I thought the changes he made worked, and that offered Rangers more of a foothold without the ball, which then allowed them to go and play some nice stuff in the second half.
Yeah, and they got that goal, of course, shortly after the restart. Like so many comments are coming in just now. Let's get to a few of them. Alan Stewart says, first of all, mornings are so much better after a Rangers win. Technically, it was a draw, but I know what you mean, Alan, but we sure know how to make it hard for ourselves. Absolutely. It's not, I think myself and Steve, we were on yesterday morning and we were thinking it would be a tight game, a nail-biter, and it certainly proved to be the case, but Rangers are in the next round. That's all that matters. Caroline, just looking to PSV. I really worry about PSV. Yeah, we can concern ourselves about that now. But listen, Rangers, I seen a stat online last night. Rangers have a very good record against PSV. I know that they put them out back in the 2010-11 Europa League, if I'm not mistaken, narrowly. Rangers did beat them, of course, last year. We beat them twice in the Champions League under Dick Advocaat. Beat them famously in 1978 when they went over there in Eindhoven. I don't think they had been beaten by any team in Europe before then. Rangers went over there and won 3-2. So certainly got a good record over there in Eindhoven. Point here by Stephen Taylor as well. He says, morning all, it's a stressful life following Rangers. Great to progress, but we missed some shocking chances. I'd go a back three against PSV. He says, thoughts. We discussed this yesterday on the show, Josh, and myself and Stevie, about the potentially moving to a back three last night. Could you see it happening against PSV, do you reckon?
Yeah, well, I guess it lines up nicely to what happened in the second half, because at halftime I wondered if Beale would, purely to give you an extra number against their front two, who were just really big and physical and knew. I think they have a really good partnership, and you could see that, and you can see that with the chance that Cognat had running through as well, with the flick from Bedia. And Crivelli was just really busy and all over the pitch, and even when he didn't win the first contact or the initial header, they were still a danger at second balls. So I thought they might go to a back three, and they did again move to a back three in possession of points, which I guess gives you that extra bit of security. But I think Michael Beale was quite aggressive and with what he changed. Instead of compromising a lot and saying, okay, they're doing this, so we're going to completely adapt to what they're doing, he spoke in his post-match press conference, and you can obviously watch that on the YouTube site.
Yep.
I think the transcript should be up on the website momentarily as well. But he spoke about needing to play higher up the pitch, which when the first half is rolled out as it has, I guess the natural inclination is to be, okay, shore up the defence a little bit more, put an extra number in there to provide more security. But I think his football and what he's trying to do is focused around Rangers' defence at the front end of the pitch, which obviously limits what Servette can then do, because you're kind of cutting them off at source a little bit more. And by playing higher, by changing the shape slightly, so Rangers started more of a 4-3-3, and they eventually went to that a kind of variation of the 4-3-1-2 shape with two strikers through the middle and Cantwell in that free role, and I thought he was excellent. But then it allowed Cifuentes and Raskin, and Raskin was like a man possessed in that second half. I cannot remember seeing a player run like he did. There was a moment where he had two players on him, and he still managed, and he was chasing the ball, and he still managed to come away with a foul. So I thought he was brilliant. But that the change of shape, I think, allowed Rangers to play higher, to put more pressure on the ball, to disrupt Servette more, defend higher up the pitch, and then it allowed Raskin and Cifuentes to get out to the fullbacks quicker. So Servette didn't have the kind of free pass option that it felt like in the first half, that when they did maybe break through the Rangers press, because Rangers were in that narrow kind of 4-3-3 shape, they were then able to very quickly get over to the far side of the pitch and make their way up the pitch. So a back three is something that Beale has spoken about a lot. It's something that Rangers went to for the last 15 minutes with Dujon Sterling, and I'm sure that will be an option at points, especially when you face a team like PSV who have a lot of danger out wide. It gives you a little bit of extra security. Beale spoke in the post-match press conference about asking Tavernier and Barisic to play higher. He said he asked Tavernier to take the handbrake off with his positioning at halftime, which obviously works perfectly for the goal. I think you will see Rangers move to that throughout the tie, probably, because it just does give you that bit more security. But the changes in the second half, I think it was about being more aggressive and giving Rangers, that offered Rangers more of a foothold in possession. Because outside of the goal, which we can come on to, and another kind of a set-piece goals from the second phase, very similar to the goal at Parkhead, Tavernier scored at the back post a few months ago in the 3-2 defeat at the end of last season. You also have Dessers with two really good opportunities, obviously hits the post, has the header, and a few other moments as well. I thought Rangers were really in control in that second half, and I can't think of many. I mean, Servette built up pressure towards the end of the game. They'd committed everyone forward. But I can't think of many really high quality chances that they created in that second half. So I think we need to give Rangers credit for the way that they managed to manage the game within that second 45 minutes. And the midfield for me, with Brian Jack kind of controlling things, but Cifuentes and Raskin and Cantwell, who just for me so clearly is this team's best player at the moment. I thought the three of them alongside Jack Butland and goals were the real players who made a difference for Rangers. Obviously Tavernier and Barisic with the big moment as well for the goal.
Yeah, I want to talk about Bonner shortly, but when you mentioned Raskin there, Joshua, Neil McLean raises a point, says, "Morning, guys. How nervy was that game last night? Ironic that we discussed Tav and his abilities in a recent podcast. Yes, yesterday me and Stevie was discussing Tav's form, and he pops up with a £5 million goal. Raskin is God." Which is high praise indeed for the Belgian midfielder. Also a bit of praise for Jose Cifuentes from Matthew Ross. Morning, also Cifuentes looks like he'll be a top player for us. Great vision. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of him in a Rangers jersey. Just slightly off topic, Joshua. Charleston says, Josh, could you snaffle that wee bit of Art Deco for me? Cheers. Not quite sure it'll fit in your suitcase right enough.
Nah, only got hand luggage there, and I made a catastrophic error last night of leaving my laptop charger at the stadium. So I am heading back out to the ground after this. But thankfully a little bit of a later flight for me, so I've got time to do that. But yeah, only hand luggage, sadly.
Yeah, well, at least you're heading back to the stadium after a Rangers victory. I can't imagine if they'd get put out what that would have been like. But Aldo, we all like predictions here on the channel. Aldo says 4-0 yesterday. So, yeah, slightly wrong, Aldo. But listen, Rangers are through. That is the main thing. I want to discuss Borna, Joshua, because I think at the start of the season, we were all waxing lyrical about Ridvan prior to the Hoffenheim pre-season friendly. He's been out injured, of course, since. And Borna's came in and looked steady, had the assist for the goal. I think he hasn't put a foot wrong, really, and he's done pretty well. I think he's. I mean, I for one went on record saying I want to see Ridvan in the team, but Borna for me is looked pretty solid out there, is he not?
Yeah, I mean, I still think that when their front three is functioning better and there's more kind of continuity between the front six, you're going to see more opportunities come from that area. While all these new players are here, and while it's going to naturally take a bit of time for Rangers to demonstrate the type of football they want to play, and there was a moment again in Beale's press conference last night where he kind of almost summarised his football philosophy in about 15 seconds, and he always uses that phrase relationships in the final third, because I think you can see watching Rangers that players have freedom. Danilo spoke about it recently, Dessers has spoken about it, Lammers has spoken about it, so I think it's going to take time for that to click. While that happens, Rangers obviously need to win, and they probably need methods that have been successful before to help them win games. And I'm not in favour of having a really cross-heavy team all season, but if you use it well, which I think they have over the last few games, as opposed to maybe the last 20 minutes against Servette, they were crossing the ball too heavily. But outside of that, I don't think the balls have been shelling in quite as much. It's been a bit more selective. And obviously the delivery is just such high quality and balance, which gives you that. I feel like we've spoken about it a lot. It was an area I thought the Rangers needed freshness in the summer, whether that be Ridvan usurping Barisic to be the first choice. If the pair then stay this season, then you could foresee a situation where they alternate between different games, because I think certain games suit a different type of left back who it's not yet, I think, like a situation on the right where Tavernier can do multiple different things, and even he's out of form at the moment, but he can be someone that stays wide and he crosses the ball, he can move inside the pitch as well. But you can, I guess, argue with Barisic's 3 assists and 3 really important assists over the last week. I think the task for Rangers now is just to improve the fluency of the play within that kind of front to be in midfield. I do think you saw in that second half, whether it be Camwell setting up Dessers for that chance or the header Dessers has after it's Barisic, instead of actually crossing from deep, plays the ball to Raskin, who crosses in. So I thought there was a lot of really good promising things in that second half, Derek. And I again asked James Tavernier this in the press conference after, effectively, it's going to take time for these new players to show their best form, and the way you buy yourself time is by winning matches, and obviously Rangers weren't able to do that in the opening day of the season. The reaction kind of spoke for itself, but last night, in what was turned out to be quite a difficult game, they managed to, and I think that's a positive. And Barisic and Tavernier could well be 2020 again with a back post cross and a back post header, but Tavernier, I mean, for all he's taken a lot of criticism over the last couple of weeks, but he just pops up in big moments consistently. And I don't think even his biggest critic could argue with his tendency to do that, his tendency to deliver in big moments. And I thought he grew into the game in the second half as well, because he had struggled in the first half, and obviously arrives at the back post, gives Rangers that goal quite soon into the second half. And from that point, I guess there's a bit of a risk that, again, you maybe set off a little bit, you fall deeper, and it's just natural to want to defend that lead. But they continue to go forward, and even with 7 or 8 minutes injury time, there wasn't too many moments aside from maybe injury time where you felt uncomfortable watching it.
Yeah, as much as there are concerns about Tav's early season form, it did pop up as he usually does in these big games with crucial goals, particularly in Europe. That's his 18th goal in European competition, which is quite incredible. Let's get to, Joshua mentioned Michael Beale's press conference. He was asked some interesting questions after the game. He was asked, are you getting enough from your strikers given the outlay? He said they've all scored a goal, and that's a positive as we're only 3 games into the season. It's difficult away from home in Europe, and I've been lucky enough to be involved in 60 of them. It's a big game against PSV. Everyone knows how massive that was for both clubs last year, and they're in good form. It's Rangers, it's Ibrox. We will go hell for Lillard. Before that, we've got a League Cup game, which is really important too. He was also asked any concerns over the defensive display in the first half. The whole team was too passive in the first half. We were 15 or 20 yards too deep, and we were much better in the second half. We won the ball higher up the pitch, and it gave us more opportunity. We have to decide what team we want to be, and we spoke about that at half-time. It shouldn't take till half-time to get that, and I want us to be more positive. You can't afford to do that at this level. Yeah, you certainly can't do that. You'll get destroyed next week coming up against PSV. So hopefully right at it from the off. Let's get to a few of the comments that are coming in. Just there was a comment asking if the Euro squad for the Servette game is the same for PSV. No, Rangers do submit a new squad, don't they, Joshua, if I'm not mistaken, for those 2 games?
I think so. You said it with confidence, so I'll trust you, but I think so.
I'm led to believe Rangers can select a different squad for that one. I'm just trying, off the top of my head, thinking what players that weren't included.
It was Ben Davies, I think, was injured. I think Ruth, Tom Lawrence. So
Matondo wasn't included in that one.
Wasn't included as well. Derek, just on the strikers, because I asked Michael Beale that question, and I think he's right. There's an old kind of adage, isn't there, that you'd be more concerned if strikers weren't having any opportunities. You look at Danilo's movement for that chance, and listen, it is a bad miss. Of course, it's a bad miss. You can't, and he should score it. Dessers, I think, is really unfortunate with that late chance that comes off the post, because he's composed and he finds the far corner from what's a difficult angle. Don't know what the expected goals on that was off the top of my head, but I don't think it will have been too high. And all in, I actually thought it was quite lots of interesting points in Michael Beale's press conference, and I think this was his first chance this season to really give a bit of a rallying cry ahead of the home game at Ibrox next week. It was a very intentional answer about trying to seize the opportunity of playing PSV as opposed to speaking up how good a team they'll be and trying to maybe manage expectations, which you could do in that situation, because PSV are obviously the favourites. But I was quite emphatic with his answer there, and also with where this team are, speaking about the fact that they're building, they're still very much in their infancy of time as a group together. So we'd recommend watching the press conference, because there's lots of interesting details, not least how the game changed, and we'll have some content on the website this afternoon once I've retrieved my laptop charger, looking back at the game in a little bit more detail, to hopefully bring a bit more understanding as to what happened.
Just on PSV, Michael Beale, I liked his answer. They have an excellent coach and they've recruited well. Of course, Peter Bosz taking over from Ruud van Nistelrooy. They spent big money this summer and they are a good team. The atmosphere will be great in both games, and there's nothing not to love about a knockout game to get into the Champions League. It's what these players dream of, so let's have a right go. Let's not have any regrets over the 2 legs and make sure it's a cauldron at Ibrox. I don't think he has to have any concerns about that. Ibrox will be bouncing next week. Interesting point of the game at the weekend. Of course, we're back in domestic action. Joshua Morton are the visitors to Ibrox. Stuart Keane raises a point. Do we expect a lot of changes for Saturday? I'm of the opinion I can foresee changes, yes. However, in the striking department, I'd be playing your Dessers, Danilo, because I think they need a bit of confidence. They need goals, and I want them to go into that PSV game with a bit of confidence that there won't be missing chances that we witnessed last night. Would you go along with that?
Probably, yeah. You kind of take the point, because if you look at players, Rangers could probably field a second 11 who didn't start last night. When you think of Hadji and Dowell and Lundstrom, but just three midfielders off the top of my head: Sterling, Ridvan if he's back, Balogun, King. There's a lot of players who will expect minutes. But it's that fine line between, I guess the game is on Tuesday, so maybe there's an argument after what was. It was a hot game last night. I'm sure it took a lot out of the players. Maybe there's an argument that you do give them a proper rest and allow them to be at their peak fitness for the game against PSV. Is it on Tuesday or when? Tuesday? The game
it's Tuesday night. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I just think that they need to feel that feeling of scoring at Ibrox. I think, and I mean, no disrespect to Morton, but it's going to be easier to score against Morton as against PSV, I'd imagine.
That's a hot take right there. Yeah, no, I do know what you mean. PSV will be a really difficult game, but it was a really difficult game last season. Although this is a new squad, Rangers in the last few years have made a habit of defying expectations more in games like this than cup semi-finals and the like. So I'm sure. Listen, I was at both legs last season, and PSV, there was notable shock in the press room after that result. PSV did not expect to go out last season, and I'm sure that
was a big shock for them.
Yeah, it was, and you've got so many. I mean, there's so many narratives now with Tillman going back. Not looking forward to seeing him play against Rangers whatsoever.
What reception do you think he'll get at Ibrox, Joshua?
I don't know. I mean, I have no idea, because I've started to see some takes on social media that he's never done it in any big games,
Let's hope he doesn't do it on Tuesday night.
Yeah, he was Rangers' best player last season for me. I don't think his quality is in doubt whatsoever. And so that's just another twist to the game, despite the fact that there's lots of new players. And again, asked James Tavernier about that after, and that's something he said. But the home leg, I guess there's a real advantage to having the second leg at Ibrox, which we saw on the road to Seville. The home leg, if you can take a lead over to Eindhoven, as Rangers did with Servette, but you're right, it'll be a much more difficult occasion. Then it puts you in a potentially a very good situation. Obviously, Rangers, I think they conceded 2 set-piece goals last season, and it was Tom Lawrence scored that free kick from range, and then Antonio Cholak scored. So I'd be in favour of some changes, Derek, but I know what you're saying. I think that the front three, whatever Beale goes for, and listen, we spoke a lot about Cantwell in that deeper role domestically or in games that are slower, and I think that works perfectly, or will work perfectly. When there's one number 10 away from home at the moment, I think it should be him instead of Lammers, purely because I just think Campbell's Rangers' most important player. Trace it back to the first day of the season. I don't think it's any surprise that he was the one that started there last night. So whatever front three Beale opts for, I'd imagine that it would be Danilo that starts. I thought Sima had decent moments last night holding the ball up, lacked an end product on a couple of occasions. You'd imagine it's the same front midfield three, perhaps with Raskin again given that license to go out and run and press, and Cifuentes doing a similar thing on the right. And the comment earlier speaking about his vision that he picked out from it was his ball for Danilo, which was a fantastic ball. I can't remember the last time Rangers had a midfielder who could play a ball like that from deep. So lots of competition, lots of good players, but it's going to be a big ask to reach it. But it was last season, so I guess we'll just have to go and see. And I guess for players like Tavernier, Barisic and others who have done it last season, Goldson, and even the players who are new, there will be, I guess, a confidence that in very recent history, Rangers have been the underdogs in this time and went and got a result, and they'll be hopeful that they can do it again. Yeah,
there are going to be 2 fantastic games of that, there is no doubt. And I've seen that PSV tweeted last night was time for revenge. I've seen the posted. They'll be expecting, their fans will be expecting, but there'll be a pressure on them as well. They are the favourites, like you say, Joshua. I think that suits Rangers, and hopefully we can go out there on Tuesday, take a lead over to Eindhoven, even if they don't. I mean, we won over there last time out, which was an incredible result. Colin Cameron raises an interesting point. He says, morning lads, what's your opinion on PSV having a league game postponed between the Champions League leg? Do you think it's a big advantage, or is our momentum a better advantage? That happened last season, if I'm not mistaken, Joshua. It didn't do them any good whatsoever in the end. I think we had this chat as well last season about, I think Rangers played Hibs just prior, because that was when Morelos gets sent off.
Yes, the 2-2 game.
Whether that game should have been postponed. Wish it was now, because Rangers drew 2 apiece over there at Hibs. But I'm happy having the game. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I guess managers want some would want to keep playing. I mean, I don't think there is going to be a game suspended, so it's probably a bit of a futile conversation. But look, I mean, last season the away leg, it was a hostile game. If you remember, it was when the Rangers bus was held up for a long time. It was the angriest I've ever seen Giovanni Van Bronckhorst after that. I think he wanted the game to be the kickoff time to be pushed back a little bit, so the Rangers could prepare properly. But it was hostile, and you add in the fact that it's happening again the year after, and I imagine the PSV fans will want that win even more. They'll want to reach the Champions League to naturally, but also I think that time for revenge tweet probably sums it up quite well, because of not only the history between Rangers and PSV and the good history that Rangers have in this fixture, but the recent history as well. So really looking forward to it. It's going to be a fantastic tie, and I'm sure at Ibrox, Rangers will they'll have to put on a performance that kind of channels the energy that the stadium will have. In the past few years, there's been so many memorable nights, and PSV last season they conceded late on Rangers. I think it was two set piece goals they conceded, and that kind of dampened the mood somewhat, but it was still a fantastic atmosphere. So would expect something similar, and a similar result would be very welcome. Important again for Rangers to get. I think it's £4 million to get for that progression to the playoff round, if I'm not wrong, something around that ballpark figure. Obviously, last season we heard repeatedly that it's not quite as cut and dry Champions League finances, but I think you can say confidently that it will put them in a better financial position than if they hadn't reached the playoff round. So, positive in that regard as well.
Yeah, it's a big result for Michael Beale as well, because if he'd gone out last night, the pressure would have escalated. It would have been pretty intense. So it's good to see him navigating that. What was a potential was a major hurdle for him. So he's got past that one. PSV are next, and it'll be interesting to see how Rangers get on against them. Loved it. It's all about opinions at the game. I love this comment from Jim. He just posted this a bit left field. I want Purso and Novo back. Don't we all, Jim? Those were the days when we had Big Dado and Nacho leading the line. But unfortunately, those days are long gone. But listen, we'll wrap up there. Thank you to everyone for interacting with the show. It is greatly appreciated. As Joshua mentioned, if you want to read Michael Beale's press conference transcript, ditto, James Tavernier is on there on the website. Lots of analysis from the game last night. You can also check our YouTube channel if you want to watch the press conferences as well. Lots coming your way. There's also a video, if you are one of our YouTube members, a video I did with Ewan yesterday, looking into the detail of Alex Lowry's move to Hearts, that loan move, of course. So you can go and have a look at that for a bit of background into how that move to Tynecastle all came about. And before we go, before I forget, just a quick mention as well, we have a giveaway on the website at the moment for the brilliant night later on this month at the Hilton Doubletree Hotel in Glasgow on Friday, the 25th of August. Eric Bo Anderson, Peter Lovenkrands, and the great Brian Laudrup are coming back to reminisce about their time at Ibrox. There will be a Q&A, a meet and greet, an auction as well. In fact, a raffle, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. But there will be prizes there to enter, and there will also be a Danish-themed menu with Danish cuisine on offer. It's sure to be a great night. We have a table at the event, and we're giving away 2 tickets to 2 lucky subscribers to the Rangers Review newsletter. It's totally free to enter. You have until midnight on Thursday. So midnight tomorrow to take part. The draw takes place on Friday. All you have to do is head over to rangersreview.co.uk/email bulletins, stick your email address in, and that's you signed up. Or you can head over to the website, click on subscribe to our newsletter, stick in your email address, and that's you entered. And if you've already subscribed to the newsletter, you're automatically entered into the draw as well. So you can come along. If you do win, you'll spend time with myself, Joshua, Stevie, Johnny, Chris Jack will be there. and others as well. I think Ewan's going to be there as well, Joshua.
Yeah, some team. Yeah, looking forward to it. We'll draw I think it's tomorrow night. We draw the winner. So we'll give one subscriber 2 tickets, and they'll be in for a fantastic night. They'll be obviously seated with all of us. So whether that's enhances the experience or not, I guess is up to them. But not free tickets for what will be a great night. And there's also, if you just want to secure your tickets for it regardless, you can do so by clicking the same link there. In the article, there's a link to the tickets page. So yeah, looking forward to it. I think that will be just in between the PSV ties. So going to be a busy month up until the international break, Derek, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like this comment that's came in. Sign Laudrup, he's only about 50. I bet he could still play, I can tell you. I've seen him in Legends games before, and he's still got it. I don't think you ever lose it. What a player he was in his day, Joshua. Absolutely magnificent. Right, folks, that'll do us there. We'll be back again tomorrow. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Bye for now.